Chapter 246. Someone waiting to pull her into the water. Her tone was not kind. Emily Burke naturally knew that Laura wouldn't let her go easily. But how could she apologize to her? She sneered. I apologize? Why? You only dared to act so arrogantly to me because you're Lord Third's bed guest. If it wasn't for Lord Third, you... Emily Burke, first of all, you have to understand that the reason why I'm targeting you has nothing to do with William Walton. It's purely because, as a person who has received a lot of education, you can only say these kinds of dirty words to hurt others. Secondly, your thoughts are filthy. According to your logic, whoever makes friends with me is trying to curry favor with me. Then, may I ask, what is someone like your father who really fawns over me? You. Emily Burke stepped forward and raised his hand, pointing at her. She raised her hand and brushed Emily Burke's hand away. You don't have the right to humiliate my friend, so please apologize immediately. I don't want to apologize. Emily Burke coldly snorted. A woman like you, who is pretending, what right do you have to order me around? You clearly know my goal, yet you lied to me from the very beginning. You tricked me, and you have to apologize. What does your goal have to do with me? Why should I tell you about my relationship with William Walton? Who do you think you are? I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to apologize or not? I won't apologize, Emily Burke said loudly. She clenched her fists. All right, don't regret it. She took out her cell phone. Emily Burke hugged her chest and ridiculed. What, you want to complain to Lord Third because you can't win? Do you think I would be afraid of you? You're thinking too much. The dog bit me, so I have no reason to find an innocent person to help me bite the dog. Right now, I'm looking for the owner of the dog. Emily Burke stepped forward. You dare to scold me? Seeing that she was going to fight against Laura, Teacher Mia immediately stood in front of her to protect her. She knew the secret of Laura Green, and also knew that Laura Green could not be touched now. She wanted to protect Laura Green. Emily Burke's hand pushed onto Mia's body. Mia turned around and said to Teacher Sabrina and the Mark, Take Teacher Green away first. Teacher Sabrina and Mia looked at each other, then stepped forward and pulled her. At the same time, the number that she dialed had also connected. She said, Principal Burke, your daughter is at the entrance of the office building, insulting me and my colleagues, and not apologizing at all. I am currently very furious, and if you can take care of it, then please take care of it. If you cannot, then I will contact William Walton after I hang up with you. Don't. Teacher Green, wait a moment, I'll be right down. Very quickly, Principal Burke came down. He first let the surrounding teaching staff disperse, then stepped forward and pulled Emily Burke to the side. Emily, what are you doing? Dad, I can't stand this woman. Why is she acting so rampant in school with the support of Lord Third? What are you saying? Teacher Green didn't do anything wrong. He pulled Emily Burke to his side and whispered next to her ear. Emily, if this matter gets to Third Master, in the future, you won't be able to find the job you want in Philadelphia. Do you really plan to ruin your future because of her? You know Dad is looking for Mr. Walton to help you find a job. These words immediately made Emily Burke quieten down. Peter Burke walked in front of her. Teacher Green, do you mind talking to me alone? Before we start talking, I hope that Principal Burke can advise your daughter to apologize to the teachers in our office. Many teachers had heard that. Do you need me find a witness? Peter Burke was also a smart person. He knew that he couldn't persuade Emily Burke, so he walked in front of Teacher Mia and the others. Mia, Sabrina, Mark, my daughter made a mistake because I didn't teach her well, and today she said something unpleasant, and it was also my fault. I apologize to you on behalf of her. Sorry. Teacher Sabrina and the Mark hurriedly said, Principal, it's fine. We should just let it pass. Peter Burke then walked toward her and said gently, Teacher Green, can I have a word with you? She turned around and said to the teacher Mia, You guys go ahead and wait for me. I'll be there shortly. The three teachers left first. Peter Burke pulled her to the side. Teacher Green, what happened today was not good for Emily. I will definitely teach her a good lesson when I get back. What do you think? Can you don't tell Mr. Walton about it? She looked at Peter Burke with a smile. For the principal's sake, I will not tell Mr. Walton about today's matters. Principal Burke, you are a good principal, but your daughter, however, she's a little outrageous. If you don't discipline her properly, I'm afraid that it will implicate you in the future. Please be careful. If you don't have any other orders, I have an appointment and will be leaving first. Principal Burke smiled at her. All right, you go first. After she left, Emily Burke came over to Peter Burke's side and stomped her feet. Dad, I'm really going to die from anger. Peter Burke looked at Emily Burke and warned her. Emily Burke, calm down. But I can't calm down. There were so many good women that he can choose. Why must he choose this Laura? There are people like you who are unconvinced. Why you still want to be the one to take the lead? Peter Burke snorted. Just you wait. The position of Miss Walton is not so easy to sit on. The number of people waiting to pull her into the water has increased. Forget about others. Just that young miss of the Anderson family is difficult to deal with. When she's almost done with her schemes and Mr. Walton has played her enough, she won't have anyone to rely on. You can do whatever you want with her. Emily Burke frowned. Then am I going to wait here now? Peter Burke moved closer to her ear and said, You should have found a chance to meet Miss Anderson. I heard that woman doesn't have any brains and could easily be controlled. There are some things you can't do with your own hands alone. You have to know how to use everything you can, understand? My daughter? Emily Burke looked at Peter Burke in realization. Dad, as expected, the older the better. The father and daughter pair looked at each other and smiled, their eyes clearly showing that they were evil. Walking a few steps, she caught up to the three teachers. Just as she was about to apologize, her phone rang. Seeing that it was William Walton, she walked to the side and picked it up. Hey, did you see the message I just sent you? I'm not going back to dinner tonight. William Walton was displeased. Where are you going to eat? The three teachers were very happy when I returned. Everyone said that they would gather together, so I decided to invite them to have a meal together. William Walton said calmly. For this meal, I'll treat them. In a while, bring them to Thomas's carriage and have Thomas bring you guys to me. No, that's not appropriate. What, you want to take me out for a meal? I was afraid that you would be around. The three teachers are so nervous from eating. What does their nervousness have to do with me? I have something to do with them. In short, just listen to me. See you later. He hung up. She was speechless. Why did he want the three teachers? Wait a minute, why should he decide? This fellow was way too domineering. Chapter 247, Act like a thief with a guilty conscience. She put the phone back in her bag and walked back to the trio. Teachers, I'm so sorry. I've implicated you all just now. Teacher Sabrina said angrily. Teacher Green, don't apologize. What does this have to do with you? It's obviously that Emily Burke, who is a vicious dog who bites recklessly. To my surprise, I thought that she was a returnee who received higher education, and that she was someone who was rather respected, but he was actually a degenerate. From then on, I hate her. Mark raised his hand. So do I. Teacher Mia nodded. Me too. She smiled. Oh right, I want to discuss something with you guys. The three of them looked at her in silence. William Walton knows that I want to eat with you guys, and he said that he also wants to have a meal with us. I wonder if you would mind. The three of them were stupefied, staring at her without saying a word. She continued. If you feel uncomfortable, I won't let him appear. Sabrina excitedly held her hand. Don't. If it wasn't for the fact that I've known you for my entire life, I wouldn't have had the chance to eat with such an important person. After she finished speaking, she looked down at her clothes again. Ah, if I had known, I would have gone back to change. Teacher Mia was speechless as she laughed. Teacher Sabrina, no matter how beautiful you are, it's useless. Teacher Sabrina pouted. Then I want to wear better too. Don't lower our office's overall looks. Mark patted his chest and said, It's fine, I'm the worst. Teacher Mia looked at her. Teacher Green, do you think it's really appropriate for us to eat together with Mr. Walton? She pursed her lips. As long as you feel that there's no problem with it, he will be fine. She pulled the three of them to the door and got into Thomas's car. Sabrina was in the car, looking around. She said to Teacher Mia beside her in a low voice, In my entire life, the most expensive car I've ever ridden in is the Audi A8. Today I've really gotten involved with the Teacher Green. Teacher Mia snickered and did not say anything. Thomas drove the car, and the four of them directly arrived at the clubhouse that William Walton had informed him about in advance. Standing at the entrance of the clubhouse, Teacher Sabrina said somewhat nervously, Will we be able to enter with this kind of clothes? She said, Yes, let's go. She walked to the door and introduced herself to the waiter, who led her into a private room. William Walton had already arrived early. Upon seeing him, the three teachers who were just visiting the clubhouse clearly tensed up. William Walton stood up and walked to her side, naturally hugging her waist. Three teachers, welcome. Please take a seat. The three of them looked at each other, not knowing where to sit. She said, Please be easy. They sat down, and the waiter brought them a menu. Looking at the prices on the menu, none of the three teachers dared to order. Even Laura Green was stunned. Was this eating food or money? She passed the menu to William Walton. You should order. William Walton asked the three of them. After confirming that they were not allergic, he leisurely ordered a table of dishes. Teacher Sabrina calculated that these dishes would cost more than $10,000. After ordering, William Walton asked Laura, How was today? Are you tired? Laura was afraid that he would spout nonsense, so she hurriedly said, My stomach is already fine. I just went to work, so how could I be tired? I'm not tired at all. William Walton raised his eyebrows. Stomach? It seemed that she hadn't told anyone about her pregnancy. But if she didn't say anything, why would others care for her? This woman didn't want anything special. He raised his wine cup and said to the three of them, Teachers, the reason why I called you all over today is because I have something that I would like to ask of you all. She looked at him, not knowing what he was going to say. Mark said, If Mr. Walton has any instructions, please speak, we will do our best. Teacher Sabrina hurriedly nodded her head and said with a trembling voice, Yes, yes. William Walton smirked. It's like this. Laura loudly interrupted, My stomach is fine. Seeing her guilty conscience, William Walton couldn't help but laugh. She doesn't have a very good stomach, and she is often uncomfortable. I hope the three teachers can help me take care of her at school. Some heavy work. Watch out for her and don't let her do it. Teacher Sabrina said straightforwardly. That's easy. Mr. Walton, don't worry. The final task of our office is to change the water. Mark is here? Mark nodded. That's right, leave these tasks to me. Teacher Mia also said, I can also take responsibility for other tasks. At the side, she felt embarrassed. William Walton acted like this, making her seem like an old, weak, and handicapped person. She felt guilty. William Walton nodded his head. There are too many people in the school, and it is inevitable that there will be a sudden situation. If she is in any danger or is bullied by others, you can directly call me. When Teacher Sabrina heard this, she hurriedly said, Then what happened just now? Sabrina! Laura Green stopped her. Sabrina blinked her eyes and looked at her in a daze. Ah! Was she wrong? She stood up and poured Sabrina a cup of water. Didn't you just say that you're thirsty? Drink a glass of water. William Walton looked at the nervous Laura Green with a sharp gaze. It looked like something had happened just now. He did not make things difficult for anyone in front of Laura. As they ate, William Walton would occasionally give her food. The interaction between the two made the others envious. After dinner, William Walton asked Thomas to send the three of them home one by one. He got into his car with her. On the way, she said, You scared me to death today. I was really afraid that you would slip up. I wanted to ask you something. Why didn't you tell others that you were pregnant? Do you think that being pregnant before marriage is something to be proud of? Unmarried? Ugh. She felt awkward. I mean, others don't know yet. So a few months later, you still want to continue lying? She was unhappy. I got pregnant in my first year. Do you know how much trouble I'm going to cause to others? If it wasn't for you standing up for me, I'm afraid I would have been fired. The matter of getting pregnant is too sudden. I really don't know how to tell them. I need time to get used to my new identity. You need to adapt to more than one identity, he snorted. The identity of a wife is what you should adapt to the most. First as a wife, then as a mother. She muttered. I know. Don't push me anymore. I'm already adapting. William Walton looked at her, curled his lips, and said softly, But your adaptation speed is too slow. Do you know what the best way to adapt is? She looked at him. I don't know. I know. Call me husband, I'll teach you. Chapter 248. If it is not love, then what is it? She said, Here you go again. You always don't listen to nice people's words. The reason I made you call me husband is to help you get used to your new identity. This is the best way for you to adapt to your new identity as soon as possible. When she thought of calling him her husband, she felt a chill run down her spine. She had grown up in a family without a father. She never saw her mother called a man that. So, husband, father, these words, she was too unfamiliar with them. She really couldn't say it. I'll think of a way to overcome it myself. William Walton snorted. I want to see what good idea you can come up with. He was obviously waiting to see her make a joke of herself. However, there were some things that were truly difficult to overcome. Returning to the Walton family, William Walton sent her up to rest. He said he had some work to attend to, so he left first. There was no doubt in her mind. He went to the bathroom to take a bath and rest. William Walton went downstairs and called Daniel. Not long after, Daniel gave him Sabrina's cell phone number. He dialed Sabrina's number. Hearing the other party call himself William Walton, Sabrina was even dumbfounded. Mr. Walton, what's the matter? Tonight, at the dinner table, you mentioned just now, did something happen before you arrived? Sabrina was in a difficult situation. Something did happen, but Teacher Green stopped me, probably because she doesn't want me to tell Mr. Walton. She's probably afraid of you being worried. It doesn't seem right for me to talk too much like this. If it's something unrelated to Laura Green, then you don't have to tell me. But if it's something related to her, then Teacher Sabrina can tell me. After all, I'm on her side. When Sabrina thought about Emily Burke's disgusting face, she could not help but say, Mr. Walton, this matter is related to the Teacher Green. Actually, when we were walking out earlier, we bumped into the principal's daughter, the Miss Burke. Sabrina recounted what happened just now to William Walton. William Walton calmly nodded his head. All right, I understand. In the future, if anything happens to her in school, please communicate with me in private. I will not mistreat Teacher Sabrina. Hearing this, Sabrina hurriedly nodded her head. Okay, Mr. Walton, I will definitely do it. After William Walton hung up the phone, he sat in the courtyard for a while, and then called Bob's number. Bob, do me a favor. Of course, just say it directly. What is it? Use your resource, offer me an executive position in your company, and then find someone to teach this person a lesson. It would be best if he could induce her to do something bad. I want to use her as a scapegoat. Ho, what kind of person is she? She can actually make you angry like this. William Walton raised his eyebrows. A fool that dares to touch my woman. Bob could not help but laugh. Then this thing really doesn't have eyes. All right, I'll take care of this matter. I believe you, then come out and drink some other day. That's fine. Oh yeah, what's the situation with you and the Anderson family recently? Why? That Nick Anderson's business has already reached my territory. He really can't wait to make a comeback. Help me hang him for a while. This time, I want to torture the Anderson family. Bob remained calm. Oh, what a bad person. The daughter of the Anderson family wants to jump into your bed, but you want to kill them so much. Who let that woman be so blind as to provoke me? They deserve it. Sk. According to what battalion commander said, you and that little teacher of yours are extremely serious, but that little teacher is still rejecting you. How could she refuse you? Take it easy, don't scare her away. The corner of William Walton's mouth raised in a devilish curve. No matter who I scare, I won't scare her. Ah, looks like you're really serious. Bring her out to drink with me later. I want to see what kind of beauty would be able to take care of you, William Walton. William Walton laughed indifferently. I'm afraid that she will blind your eyes. Heh, you have quite the tone. In that case, I shall wait and see. Hanging up, William Walton went upstairs to his room. She was taking a bath. Listening to the sound of water flowing in the washroom and thinking of a few scenes, William Walton swallowed his saliva. He picked up the book she had left on the bedside table. This was an exercise book. The first half of the book was almost done. Flipping through it, he saw that she had drawn cartoons in some corners. A little blue elephant with a bow was looking up at a lion. Little elephant is humble like dust, but lion is tall and mighty. He turned another page back, showing the lion giving the baby elephant meat to eat, but the baby elephant was looking at the banana on a tree nearby. He turned the page. There was no drawing, only his name, followed by a question mark. Ah, from this, he could really see her conflicted heart. Just as he was about to continue reading, Laura Green came out. She wiped her hair and looked at the book in his hand. Thinking of something, she hurriedly stepped forward and snatched the book away. She glanced at the night he was reading and said anxiously, "Why are you flipping through other people's things without asking for their permission? Who else is here?" William Walton crossed his legs. "You are mine." She curled her lips. "But this book is mine." "You are Little Elephant, and I am a lion?" Without a word, she walked over to the dressing mirror and sat down, continuing to wipe her hair. William Walton got up and followed her. He leaned on the dressing table and stared at her. "Why are you a little elephant?" She replied without thinking, "A herbivore that looks powerful." William Walton nodded his head. "Yes, it suits your image. Although you look strong on the outside, your heart is very weak." She looked at her face in the mirror and thought to herself. She meant that even though the little elephant and the lion seemed to be of similar stature, they were not from the same world. Like them. He bent close to her face. Their faces were very close together, and she leaned back a little. She wanted to put some distance between them. He calmly said, "In my eyes, you are a cat, and I am a tiger. We are of the same species, but there are strong and weak ones. I am honored to be able to protect you." Her heart thumped in her chest. He was always able to say some sweet words, whatever he wanted, without changing his expression. It was just like this moment. Once upon a time, she could remind herself not to listen, not to believe, to be immune to him. However, she really couldn't do it now. His words always made her heart palpitate. This self-depravity really made her feel fear. She was not a fool. This feeling, if it was not love, but what was it? Chapter 249. Me and him. Who do you choose? The next day at noon, Teacher Sabrina came back from outside and shouted excitedly, "My dear friends, let's go shopping at noon today." Teacher Mia glanced at her, then lowered her head and continued working. "Teacher Sabrina, did you pick up the money?" "What are you talking about?" "I just heard from Teacher in the neighboring office that Anderson's group's new beauty products are being sold at a special price. If the people from their office want to form a team to take it, then let's go as well," Mark said. "Heh, you better not let my girlfriend hear about it. If not this month, my purse will be in a hurry again." Teacher Sabrina curled his lips. "Mark, you can't do that. Look at the third master. Sk, we can't compare our strength like that. After all, there are only a few of you in Philadelphia like Mr. Walton." Teacher Mia could not help but laugh. "That's right. There is no such comparison. Mark, don't listen to Teacher Sabrina." Mark also laughed casually. "Sigh, it's my honor to be able to compare with Mr. Walton. I'm not qualified anyway." She looked at Sabrina with a puzzled expression. "Teacher Sabrina, didn't the Anderson family's cosmetics never come with a discount? They couldn't have gotten it wrong, right?" "It's not wrong," Sabrina said as she sat down at the desk. "I heard that Anderson's group encountered a crisis in management and needed a lot of money to complete their business. I don't know about it, but I heard them discussing about the Anderson family's stocks falling a few times." Mia put down her brush. "If that's the case, then I really need to go and hoard a few boxes of mask. I think the moisture protection mask is pretty good." Sabrina snapped her fingers. "I am also the fan for the moisturizing mask. How about it? Do you want to walk together in the afternoon?" Mia looked at her. "Teacher Green, shall we go together?" As she was thinking about that, she shook her head and said, "I'm not going. You guys go ahead." Mia said to Sabrina, "Then let's go together." She looked down at the papers on the table. Her mind had already drifted away. In the afternoon, after Teacher Mia and the others left, she called Amy. She was surprised to receive her call. "Laura, I'm very happy to be able to receive your call." She smiled. "Amy, do you have time for lunch? I want to have a meal with you and ask you about something along the way." "Well, where shall we meet?" "Let's go to the restaurant where we had dinner last time. It's not far from us." "All right, I'll see you later then." After hanging up the phone, she immediately left. Thomas was not available at noon, so she took a taxi to the dining hall. She waited for less than 5 minutes before Amy arrived. Amy hurriedly sat down. Sorry, but, am I late again? No, I just arrived too. After the two of them ordered their meal, Amy drank 2 mouthfuls of water and asked, Laura, didn't you say you wanted to ask me any questions? Yes, she nodded her head. I heard that Anderson's Group's recent funding shortages and discounts of cosmetics have also started to decrease. Right? When she mentioned this, Amy nodded her head worriedly. It's like this, many of our company's female employees are all hoarding goods. I heard that the Walton Group has always been targeting the Anderson family. Then, is the danger to the Anderson family related to the Walton Group? Amy shook her head. There are a lot of people discussing that the Andersons Group's matter is related to the Walton Group itself. The Anderson family has already suffered losses for 2 months already, and at the end of last month the group even closed a branch office. Furthermore, the boss had recently been leading his team to make investments everywhere, but the results were meager. It is said that Mr. Walton is making things difficult for us, but all of these things were discussed by everyone, so there is no evidence. Ingenious, she nodded, her expression grave. Amy said, Laura, your relationship with boss is so close. If you're really curious, why not ask him? She shook her head. When he's with me, he'll always report the good news without reporting the bad news. You must be worried about him. She pursed her lips and smiled. Not really. I was just a little surprised when I heard that the Anderson family's cosmetics were being sold at a discount. She really did not care about what the Andersons Group would do. No, perhaps in the depths of her heart, she still had that little bit of hope that the Andersons Group would fail. After all, she really wanted to see the miserable appearances of John Anderson, Helen Anderson, and Betty Anderson. If that day ever came, she would probably want to see them make a joke of themselves. It was a pity that Nick Anderson, who had treated him nicely, was also a Anderson family. In this crisis of the Anderson family, the one who had the hardest time was most likely him. Amy sighed. Sigh, we don't know when this business war will end. Everyone is in peril. This month, the company has already cut more than 200 employees. We are also worried. We don't know if this fire will even burn our own bodies. Our future is uncertain. She looked at Amy, lowered her eyes, and started to let her thoughts run wild. After work in the afternoon, he returned home early. The Anderson family was in chaos, but William Walton was calm. He rarely participated in any business activities, nor did he socialize with others late at night. He came back on time every day to eat with her. After eating 2 mouthfuls of pasta, she put down the bowl and fork, looked at him and asked, William Walton, I want to ask you a question. Call me husband. She pouted. I'm serious with you. William Walton smiled, calmly gave her some food, and placed it in her bowl. Go ahead. You must be the one who did the Anderson family's work, right? What's the matter with the Anderson family? Don't play dumb with me. Laura picked up the fork and ate the food that he had given her. I've heard that the Anderson family is short of funds and can't get any investment, so they can only deal with the new product at a discount. You are someone who stays at school every day. You know quite a lot, right? Someone from the Anderson family came to look for you? No, the teachers are forming a team today to buy masks. William Walton could not help but smile. I did it. What, are you in pain? I feel sorry for the Anderson family. Am I crazy? What does the Andersons Group having to do with me? I mean your dear brother, don't you care about him? When William Walton said this, his tone was not very good. She didn't know why he suddenly got angry. She thought about it and said cautiously, My brother, yeah, I really don't hate him. William Walton raised his eyebrows and stared at her. His gaze clearly filled with anger. Don't hate him? I'm afraid you do like him. Why do you sound so weird all of a sudden? She looked at him and almost laughed out of anger. Are you jealous of my brother right now? He's my brother. And if he is not your brother? Laura looked at him in confusion. William Walton said seriously, Forget the grudge between you and the Anderson family. Just talk about him and me. If he wasn't related to you by blood and I pursued you at the same time, who would you marry? Little Laura, you are lying. I can see it. I want to hear the truth. Chapter 250. You are my happiness. It was quite funny. This man's ability to take off vinegar really made her admire him from the bottom of her heart. How could he be jealous regardless of the occasion? Laura truly agreed with what he said. All the cats and dogs that passed by her, he had to differentiate between males and females, right? Don't laugh, little Laura. I'm serious. Answer me. I remember, you made me do this a lot of times. As I said, your conditions are the most attractive to too many women. Even if you are married, I don't know how many women will jump on you one after the other. After marrying you, my life is destined to be restless. I, on the other hand, like to live a peaceful life. So no matter what, you're not the type of person I would prioritize. William Walton's face turned cold. Before he could get angry, she said, But my brother is even more so. He is just as outstanding as you, and just as unable to give a woman a sense of security. If I had to choose between the two of you, I would still choose you. William Walton stared at her face. She had an unperturbed look on her face, but it didn't seem like she was lying. In this world, if I can't give you a sense of security, then no man can. Laura Green shook her head and smiled, but didn't say anything. You don't believe me? No, I believe you. What I don't believe is your allure for women. Perhaps you've been bewitched by me for the time being. But there are too many outstanding women in this world. I really don't have the confidence to keep your heart with me for the rest of your life. William Walton frowned. Why are you so lacking in confidence? Why are you unwilling to believe that you are the best in this world? She lowered her eyes and smiled bitterly. Because I am not. People are willing to get close to beauty. Goods are like this. People are like this. If I am really so outstanding, why would even my father be unwilling to take me? Why would my mother abandon me? As she spoke, she looked up at him. William Walton, I'm not as good as you think. When William Walton heard this, he did not feel angry, but he felt pain. His heart ached because she didn't understand her own beauty. This woman seemed strong, but her heart was sensitive and weak. She was afraid of being injured. That was the reason why she had kept her guard up. Wanting to open her heart was definitely not an easy matter. And once he had her sincerity, he definitely could not harm her, otherwise. She would never give anyone a second chance. Once she was injured, she would once again shrink back into the cage, preventing anyone from getting close to her. He got up, walked over to her, pulled her up, and hugged her into his arms. At the side, Butler waved his hand to the crowd, and they all left. She snuggled into William Walton's embrace and said, Are you pitying me? I'm not saying all this to make you pity me. I'm just trying to tell you. I'm telling you, I'm getting closer to happiness and beauty. You are my happiness. Her heart tightened, and she fell once more. On the way to William Walton, she had already fallen deeper and deeper into the abyss, unable to extricate herself. Thank you. She then raised her hand and slowly wrapped it around his waist. William Walton was a little pleasantly surprised. In the past, she would always let him hug her with his hands by his side. It was the first time she had hugged him back. William Walton looked to the side, not being able to see her face, but his lips touched her fragrant hair. For him, this was a huge improvement. He liked her approach. This was a symbol that her heart was slowly opening up to him. The two of them embraced and warmed each other. After a long while, she said, If I don't eat any more, the food will get cold. I'm hungry. William Walton released her, raised his hand and caressed her head, then returned to his seat and said, Eat. After you finish eating, go up the stairs and continue. Continue? What? She touched her belly and said warily, I am someone who is pregnant. William Walton tilted his head and laughed speechlessly. What do you think I want to do? How would I know what you're doing? William Walton sighed. Of course I'm hugging you. The more you think about it, the more crooked it becomes. Her face slightly flushed. She hurriedly stuffed the dish into her mouth. I didn't think wrong. Today's dish tastes really good. Seeing her forcefully changing the topic, William Walton couldn't help but laugh. I hadn't finished with the previous topic. I didn't think too much about it, she said as she lifted her mouth and muttered. William Walton, you really know how to discredit others. Is it that interesting to see others feeling awkward? William Walton found it funny. I'm talking about the problem between me and your brother. She stared at him dumbfoundedly. She was exhausted. There was always a way for this man to make her want to search for a mouse hole and never return. She said angrily, What problem do you have with my brother? Don't be so angry from embarrassment. Let me ask you, don't you like him a lot? Regardless of the background, why did you put him behind me when you were purely comparing me and him? Is this choice really not against my will? She rolled her eyes. To think that she felt warm because of his words just a moment ago. To her surprise, this fellow turned out to be a straight man made of steel. I don't want to answer. I want to eat. Must answer. She was speechless. My brother's personality is indecisive. This kind of man is easily shaken. I do not wish to become the one who is easily abandoned when faced with multiple choice questions. In this regard, you are quite persistent. When it comes to things you are certain of, you do not listen to the advice of others. Compared to my brother, you can give me a greater sense of security. William Walton snorted. She frowned. What are you humming about? That's what I really think. So, you also know how irritating it is to become the one that is most easily abandoned when faced with a choice. However, you still did this to me before, and on more than one times. I don't want to make things difficult for you and your family, I'm afraid. She started to say something, then stopped. He raised his eyebrows. What are you afraid of? Speak out. She lowered her eyes and did not say anything. William Walton said. Silence again. If you don't say what's in your heart, how would I know? Laura, I like the way you're honest with me, huh? I'm afraid that I'll be given up. That's why I'm the first to go. As she spoke, she glanced at him and bit her lip. This topic, let's end it here. There's no way to compare you and my brother, because you are you and my brother is my brother. William Walton did not object, and gently said, Eat. As he watched her obediently eat her food, he remembered the report in his drawer and smiled. If one day she knew the true relationship between Nick Anderson and her, he didn't know if she would be this calm.